Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the podcast. This week, I wanted to invite a good friend of mine now, someone who I met through Time 55 originally, but I'll let him explain a little bit more about that meeting a little bit later on in this podcast. But he's Simon. He runs a social media agency, very, very similar to Brunter Media, but I still thought it was valuable in having a conversation with him about what he does and how he does it. So thank you so much for coming back. If you did enjoy this conversation and you would like to see more like it, then make sure to be subscribed to the channel. I'll see you very, very soon.
So I'm Simon Scholes. I'm the founder and creative director of an agency called Perception Studios. We're a visual marketing agency, and we kind of specialize in all the social media content that you might see potentially on different channels, be it video, animation, aerial, graphical, all that kind of stuff. To give a little bit more of a backstory as to my personal brand and the kind of stuff that I do, I try and help people as much as I possibly can understand what they can do with their own social media themselves. So a few years ago, very sadly, my dad passed away. And one of the big things I took from my dad passing away was that he left a legacy I had no idea about. So my dad was a chief engineer in the Merchant Navy. And when I was telling people online and on social media about the fact that he passed away, all these people were coming out of the woodwork that he'd trained through the years as an engineer, saying basically, your dad was an amazing engineer, an amazing teacher, and I wouldn't be doing what I do now if it wasn't for your dad. And yes, a lot of that would have been people being nice because dad had passed away, but also it's like, well, I had no idea that's what my dad, I knew my dad was an engineer, but I had no idea he'd left that element of legacy behind him. And so it got me thinking about what kind of legacy do I want to leave? Obviously, I'm going to have a family, and I do have a family now. But at the time, I didn't. I was like, what legacy am I going to leave? And so I kind of sat myself down and went, okay, what do I really want to achieve with Perception Studios and with myself personally? And so I decided that actually I wanted to take things that I've been talking about anyway, social media, and something I was hugely passionate about, and something I'd been using for years and years and years and talking about for years and years and years, but never really pushed the thought process like home about it to other brands and businesses. So I sat down and I kind of said, right, okay, what is that I want to help people with? I want to help them start creating content so that they can use social media more effectively, because the whole point of social media is about being consistent. So basically came up with this process. It's stuff other people have talked about, but it's stuff I've been talking about for like 10 years as well, which was effectively taking content you've already got and making it work harder for you. And those 10 years have also kind of given us the tools that make life even more easy than it was 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, it was easy to make that content work hard. But now you've got apps like Lumen 5, you've got like Fat Joe, which will write blogs for you, all these things that will create content for you, yes, at a cost, but the cost is so minimal compared to the time that you might have spent in the past creating this content. So that's kind of the background of me and what I do and why I do what I do. And then Perception Studios. Prior to that, I was a former radio and TV presenter. I went into that by the fact that I used to be an international athlete, and I was training to try and achieve qualification for the Olympics. And I got a major injury to my knee one year, and kind of just that was it. It was done. My dream was over. And while I was at university and I was studying business and information systems, a couple of my friends said, "Do you fancy doing university radio?" Really enjoyed doing that. I thought, this is far better than having a real job. I'm going to go and do radio for the rest of my life. And that's kind of what I really pursued for a very, very long time. I was very fortunate to work at places like Galaxy as a network. I worked for a station called Viking FM, which at the time was part of a group called EMAP. They owned Key 103 and Kiss 100 and places like that. Worked with some amazing people, JK and Joel, Hursty, lots of great names that have like come down south or gone national. So I was very lucky in that essence. Went into work for a TV station, did some live TV work as a presenter. That was really good fun. And then came down south. I worked for a radio station or two down here, and then went to work for a company called Media Broadcasting, which was owned by a former Radio 1 presenter and basically a businessman now, Bruno Brooks. And he provided, as a business, bespoke in-store radio solutions, audio solutions. And the business developed over the years I was there. I was there for 10 years. And I was in production, then I was head of production, then I was head of music and all sorts of different jobs, as well as being a presenter there, but working with some amazing brands and getting to understand how more so that how brands work. So my degree was in marketing along with the business side of things, but I was able to learn from some of these big media moguls, including Bruno, but also like the people who run Burberry and Ingvar Kamprad and the country managers for IKEA and people like that, learning from these big people, basically how to kind of run a business so that I could take that into Perception Studios eventually when I did move on and start to run the visual marketing agency.
No, that's it. No, that's good to hear. I mean, for me, I think it's interesting to hear, because for a lot of what I do, I get to talk to a lot of different videographers, a lot of different visual people, a lot of different marketers, photographers, etc. So for me, it's always interesting to hear how someone gets from doing radio, for example, to then doing, something more video based or etc. or whatever it may be. So I think for me, it's interesting to explore, but also you can learn from others. Like specifically, like a lot of people, I think the main question would be, well, isn't Simon one of your competitors here in what I do? And technically that may be true, but technically that also isn't true, because I think there's, firstly, more than enough work to go around, one. Two, I think that if you're open to have a conversation and open to, add value in any way, I think there's ways we can help each other, but also ways that your audience can get value from me and vice versa. So I think there's a huge, melting pot of stuff, and I think it's very it's a common misconception to be like, oh, you shouldn't talk to your competitors, you shouldn't help your competitors, etc. So what would be your thoughts on, like, because I think that's going to be the first question that people have, is like, well, Simon literally does what you do, why is he here on the podcast having a conversation, right? Isn't that counterintuitive to what you do?
I mean, it is in one breath, but the bigger breath that's beyond that is collaboration is key in anything. If I wasn't willing to collaborate with other creators and other people who essentially do what my agency do, I would not have done work for the likes of Pepsi and Mountain Dew and Walkers and Lay's, and the list goes on and on and on. I wouldn't have done any of that work because I'd have gone, oh, well, you're another agency, I don't want to work with you. I mean, that's just cutting off your nose to spite your face, really, in one aspect. And also, you've got to be a little bit more open-minded about these kind of things. Sometimes you're going to learn stuff. Sometimes you're going to go, what do they know? But whatever, it's great, they're paying a bill. It's just, it's... I've never understood this. If you're a will writer, I kind of get it, because if there's another will writer in the room, then you're both fighting for the same jobs. You're not going to collaborate on writing a will. But in what we do in the creative industries, I think collaboration is key on all sorts of different. I mean, from what we do to the point of being an influencer and growing your channel, collaborating with other influencers is how you grow your channel these days. It's not by necessarily putting out a piece of content that's going to go viral, because there's no magic pill to that. And there's no way you can guarantee it, even if you are a pretty boy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
or girl.
No, absolutely, and I think that's good to hear, and that's why I wanted to ask it, because I think that there's a set of people right now who are very, if you're not, I'm not going to directly gain for you, I'm not going to talk to you, and I think it's a very negative approach, negative opinion, negative thought process to be on, because I think when I win, you win. When you win, I win. The more people talking about why digital media is a good idea, the more work there'll be. Therefore, we both win.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of it, but BNI, one of their big, like, their mission statement is give as gain. So the more you give, the more chance you have of gaining. So as much as I'm not a huge fan of that element of networking, I think the mission statement is very, very true. And I've come across what you're talking about in networking so often. I'll never forget once I was at a networking event. The guy walked up and went, "Oh, who are you? Who are you? Who are you?" Gave me a card, gave the next person a card, and then got to the third person and went, "I've already spoken to you," turned around and walked away. And it's like, right, okay, well, thanks for your card. That'll go straight in the bin. It's just, you're just like, don't be a knob.
Yeah, it's just, this life's too short. I don't know. It's something which I think that certain people will get, certain people won't, right? But I think the next natural question is, how did we meet, right? Because this story is interesting, and I don't want to tell it from my side yet because I've kind of told it from my side already, not here, but I've already told it from my side. But I think it'd be interesting to, I mean, I'm happy to fill in the gaps where there is, but like, I think it'd be interesting to hear it from your perspective, and that's part of the reason why I want you to come on in some ways as well, to see how that kind of, firstly, like, how did we meet, firstly, and then secondly, what was that experience like for you from your side?
So we met on a project working with Tide 55, Tommy's company, and so I've filmed with Tommy a lot, basically over the years. He used to hold an event called Super Self Summit, which was very mindset based and back in Tommy's other era, almost, if you other life. And so, and basically, I got a phone call just saying, look, we've got this project coming up. It's very last minute. Carlton, who I work with, he's probably going to come along, but we don't know for sure because he's very busy as well at the moment. Are you available to do it? Both the projects sounded really interesting, albeit a little rushed, but that's just the way it was. And I think some of the stuff's come out okay. And yeah, so basically came on the shoot, and Carlton was free. You were free, and you came along, and as you do, you filmed Tommy's vlog on a daily basis, so you were able to kind of concentrate on that, and then yeah, just like, oh, have you tried this? Have you tried that? All that kind of thing. Because one of the things I saw the vlog this morning. One of the things I say is you're always going to miss that shot that you might not have thought about. You try and capture as much as you possibly can do, and when you're not in a position where you have storyboarded it beforehand, you have to go in blind, and it's kind of almost like storyboarding on the hoof, but you don't want to miss potentially anything, but there's always that potential when you're doing it on the hoof that it's just going to happen. So to have somebody else there who does the same thing, to be able to go, oh, have you thought about this, or trying that over there, or that kind of thing, was I think was hugely beneficial for the shoot as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think for me, it was one of those things where, like, you know, for me, it was important to, in the Tide's perspective of the vlog, to talk about why I wasn't shooting the project. Because the initial conversation, I think most people who watch that vlog would be like, well, why isn't Colton shooting it, right? But the reality of the fact was, and the reality of the fact still is, I have huge amounts of work that Tommy's giving me, which I'm hugely grateful for. But also in reality, when it comes to doing client projects like that, some of the time, if I've got a huge amount already on my plate, I can't necessarily, that are all, you know, at the same, it's sometimes that's not possible. So sometimes I think it's going to be good, and I think that's the first case when we went to Reading and did that. But I think there'll be other cases in time where you do come and you do stuff for Tide, or you do projects for Tide when my plate's too full, or when you suit that client specifically, you know. For me, it's not oh, Tommy thinks Simon's better than me. It's I don't particularly care, and it's not that I don't care in regards to like, oh, I need to do all the things. No, it's I care about the client getting the product which is going to be better for them, whether that's turnaround wise or just simply quality wise as well, right? So I think it was interesting for me, and also it kind of took the stress off me a little bit because I wasn't having to do both. I wasn't having to be like, right, I'm here to film a vlog, but I'm also here to film a client promo. Right, so it kind of let me. It kind of. It's all right, but yeah, no, I think it was for me a very interesting experience because also, I mean, as I've said multiple times, I mean, a lot of videographers work differently, right? Like something which I think is a good idea, you might think is a terrible idea, and vice versa, right? So for me, it was a very interesting perspective to kind of sit back and not relax, that's not the wrong word, but you know, sit back and sort of watch you work and how you would produce the project, and you know, and then kind of allowing me to kind of interject and say, well, okay, have you thought about doing this? Why don't you do it from here, or etc. And I think there were some of those some of the shots that actually made the cut were like I want to say like collaborative shots, like not taking any credit away from the work you did, of course, but I think it was still beneficial to, and we talked about this in the vlog as well, you know, about all three of us being there, right? We all had a different role, and we all had a different kind of understanding, I guess, of the projects and different perspectives on the project and what the job was to do, basically, right? So So I think it's really important, and I think if anyone's going to take anything away from this podcast, that collaboration, whether that's with other videographers, other agency owners, etc., is very, very, very important. Now more than ever, because workloads. I don't know whether it's the same for you, but workloads for me is very. I have a few clients. I have loads of clients. Oh my god. And some of the time there's bigger projects and you're like, yeah, you can still pick and choose with those projects, but I think it's also one of those things where some of the time you need to, like, you'll need help on those projects. Like, the fact is you're going to need help. Have you found, like, as you've got into creating media more like COVID related now, like this year specifically, that you've been doing more, I use the term remote working instead of necessarily like going and shooting stuff for people?
Yeah, so the first part of lockdown, so from like March to July, that was very much the case. People were doing this kind of stuff, Zoom, and then going, right, okay, I've got this piece of content. I've sat chat to multiple people. They've done talks for me, whatever it might be. Right, I know I need to turn it into the content. Simon, here you go. Here's the video file.
Yeah.
So that was the case. Then come July, a couple of my clients became a little bit more happy about having people on site. So I was able to go in and there was one client that I'd done some filming for who had filmed one site and they wanted me to film the second site, but obviously then COVID happened. So they knew how I worked already. So they kind of said, right, okay, now you can come in, just have to obey the COVID rules, but otherwise we'll just leave you to it, and kind of stepped away and just let me crack on, which was great. The other one was a case of storyboarding, all that kind of stuff, meetings and everything else. And so from July until October, I was quite busy with external filming and that kind of stuff. And then November happened, and it's kind of the external filming has kind of, I wouldn't say completely gone away, because I've been chatting to quite a few people about what they want. The inquiries are probably higher right now than actually the filming, but that will then lead to more content and more social management and all that kind of stuff come December. And I've already had one client book in a date for December filming today. So they're kind of positive moving. I think everyone's just trying to be really positive at the moment in the fact that, okay, we might go into this tiered system. We don't know what's going to happen on December the 2nd, but no matter what, we need to keep moving forwards, because otherwise businesses are just going to go. They're just going to die. I'm in a very fortunate place where I do have recurring clients where I can keep the business going. But if that wasn't the case, I would have probably, as a business, died months ago. And I think that's the case for quite a few people, unfortunately. So yeah, it was an interesting one. But thankfully there has been that drip feed of Viva editing, then monstrous amounts of shooting between July and October, and then okay, stop again in November. And I honestly thought, come December the 2nd, because of the way people's mindset seems to have been this year, they don't seem to have changed their mindset as a business. So you're normally quiet over summer, and it was quiet over summer, and it was up to July, like the back end of July, which is when I restarted again. It was quiet, and you're like, but we're out of this really tight lockdown. We're in a lockdown still, but you can actually do some work now. Why are you not doing something? Why are you not? But we're not stepping on the gas because we're still in that mindset of, well, it's holidays. It's summer. I don't do anything in summer. And so I was thinking that was going to be the same in December. But actually, the way people have been getting in touch and asking for quotes and stuff like that, maybe it's not going to be. Maybe it's going to go mad. Maybe I'm going to have to dig out my thermals.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people, I think some businesses anyway have been like, they took first lockdown as that was crap. Let's not be in that situation again. So then they were like, the second they could get out, I mean, me and Tommy discussed this internally as well, about the go-getter mindset and just getting stuff done while you can get stuff done. And it kind of, I think those people are people who will be able to scale through this. But I think my follow-up question to that was, say there's a business owner listening to this who is unsure whether they should still be on social media, or they're not 100% committed. They're on the fence. They're like, yeah, okay, I kind of get it, but also I don't. What kind of advice would you give to those people who are, I think it's going to cost me £1 billion. I think it's going to take a load of my time. Though I'm sure you get those as well. There's like a lot of miscommunication, misunderstanding, misinformation out there about how much it legitimately costs, firstly, but then also how much time it can take in regards to the actual business owner's time, because it actually doesn't matter how much it costs, because if you're saving a business owner a huge amount of time, then surely it's going to be beneficial for them as long as they're seeing a return eventually on it, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where an old coach of mine used to say was basically, look, what do you charge an hour? Right, okay, say it's 150 quid an hour. Well, how much is it to get your ironing done? Well, 15 quid an hour. So why are you not paying to get your ironing done and making £135? Why are you not doing that? And that's so it kind of boils down to the same thing with the social media aspect. And it's a lot more affordable than people think. Don't get me wrong, content creation is expensive or can be expensive rather than is expensive. That would be the wrong way to put it. And there's different levels of content creation. So if you're on a full blown shoot, then you've got camera hire, you've got lights hire, you've got studio hire, you've got model hire, you've got model day rates, you've got model usage fees. All these things that all add up, which is why when you do shoots for big clients and the final bill's in the six figures, there's a reason for it. There's all these things cost money, but you can also then scale it right back again and go, right, okay, well, what I'll do is I'll set up a little white screen. You send me a product and I'll make a cinematograph of it, or I'll make a 3D GIF of it. And that will cost you a lot less money because there is no studio hire and I'm using my own lights and I'm using my own camera and all that kind of stuff. So you have one end of the scale, which is affordable, and you have the other end of the scale, which might not be so affordable for the smaller businesses. And yeah, there's something there for everybody. As for the fact of, oh, I'm not so sure if I should be using social media, it's crazy talk. To be honest, the attention is on this thing. People have heard it a million times, but the attention is there. If you're not using social media now, it's crazy because the first thing people do is when the adverts come on the TV, they pick this up. Or they go and put the kettle on and take this with them so they can search social media while the kettle's boiling. Or they fast forward the adverts so they don't watch them at all. So that money's wasted by those companies. Or they pop to the loo and they take this with them. So it's where the attention is. It's where those people are. Now, taking it a level deeper, as a business, you have to understand who your avatar is, where they're hanging out, so you can put that content there because you want them to be, if that person's going to the toilet who's your ideal client and they're going on Facebook but you're putting your content on LinkedIn, then you're still not talking to them. So you have to understand the ins and outs of marketing a little bit better. But yeah, I'm a huge advocate of I kind of tell my clients to do like a 70 to 80% on one channel and then split the rest of it across multiple platforms, because there's always that level of friction created on social media. But to say, oh, I don't know if I should be using it now, and I do still come across it. I had somebody the other day say, well, I don't like Facebook. I said, well, your business doesn't give a shit, because your business is going to keep moving forward and social media is going to keep moving forward and your customers are going to keep wanting to go to Facebook because that's where they're hanging out and you're not there. It's like not being invited to the best party.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely. And I think it's I think business owners is now starting to, like, think about it a lot more. And I was filming a podcast earlier as well with a brand photographer, and she was talking about like how visual imagery is going to allow you to stand apart, because there is a huge amount of competition on social media now. Going the other side of that, there is a lot of people who this year have been like, who are on the fence, before this year, and been like, maybe I should do social media, or maybe I should invest in content, or. But then this year they went, right, we're doing it. Now what?
yeah, but what annoys me the most at the moment is people who are fine posting social media. I don't want to pull out a particular marketplace without being horrible, but people who are probably perfectly good at posting social media and doing community management essentially. So like reaching out and talking to people when they get in touch and all that kind of stuff. But then they sell themselves as content creators and they're not. And that sounds really snobby, but there are loads of apps that will allow you to do it yourself. So do it yourself. Don't necessarily pay for somebody to do that stuff on Canva or on Audio Spark that you could do yourself really, really quickly. You could take your phone to the toilet and create 5 pieces of content while you're there. So yeah, there's very different levels, I
Mm-hmm.
guess.
I think the following question to that for me would be, and I'd actually be really interested in hearing this answer. Hence why I want to ask it. What do you think as a content creator that the content creators or videographers or photographers need to do to keep ahead of the market? Because everyone knows that apps are getting very, very good, right? I'm constantly surprised by the kind of content, the kind of edits that phone apps can actually do now, right? What would you say is people's best bet if they're a videographer, etc., that they can, because at the end of the day, you have to prove to your client why they should be paying you to edit the video instead of them doing it on their phone, right? So why? What can videographers do? What can photographers do? What can content creators do to make them seem more valuable, make them be more valuable, make them be the go-to person instead of the client doing it themselves on their phone?
I mean, it is always finding that pain point, and you could even give them examples. So, I mean, we did a shoot recently where we had to use the phone because the exposure was just horrendous. We were both there, and it was just one of those things. We didn't know what we were walking into, so we had to use the phone, and it was a really cool product. And I think it's come out okay. It's not kind of what I'd have really envisioned, but there was just nothing we could do about it. So, and phones can create some great content, but one of the great examples I give to people or even show people is, right, watch this video, and it's a video for Bentley, and the video is amazing. And then you get to the back end of it, and it's all shot on tablets and on phones, and they go, oh well, that's all possible on a phone and on a tablet. And I'm going, yes. Now watch it again, and they watch it again, and the people who are doing the filming have got the tablets on a jib or on a crane or on a dolly or on a Steadicam. I'm like, the phone is only as good as the person using it and their knowledge and understanding of what it's capable of doing with the right kit. You just standing there and doing that, and then hopefully going to be able to edit it afterwards is just not the way forward. So I think that's one level of pain that you can kind of help people with and help them understand. I think the other thing that a lot of creatives don't necessarily do, but I think it's a great way of going into a business, is helping them go, right. One of the things we specifically do is a lot of businesses will come to us and say, "Oh, we've been told we need a video for our website." I'm like, okay, right. This goes back to how I started, which was very much, oh, you need a video for your website because it'll increase dwell times and conversion rates and this and that and the other. And then I was like, actually, that's a lot of bullshit, isn't it? That's just selling a video because you've heard a few key phrases that might make people happy. And so one of the things we do, and that I always go into business with, is say, right, okay, well, do you really? Do you really need a video for your website? What are you doing, first of all, as a business? Or we're B2B. Okay, are you selling your product through the website? No, we're not. Okay, well, maybe a website video is a good idea because it'll help people understand what you do and they're more likely to sit and watch it. But if you're a B2C business and you're selling mini ring lights, for example, and somebody comes onto your website and they buy, and for every 1,000 people who visit your website, 850 of them are buying a ring light, you don't need a video to keep them on your website longer or convert them because your conversion rate's already 85%. What you need is more people to come to your website. And therefore, I would much rather either turn them away as a client and say, don't waste your money, or say to them, don't waste your money on that, maybe save some money and have this, and this created that you can then use on social media and drive people to your website so you'll make more money, and then take an element of that and create the next lot of content, and then take an element of that and create the next level of content. So I think that's a big thing for a lot of people. I think a lot of creatives and a lot of video agencies are very much all about, oh, you need to have a website video. And that's kind of what they do. They just sell that and step away. And then all these people get this website video. It gets no views, doesn't bring them any business. I'm like, well, what the hell? I've spent 3-4 grand or what have you having this video created. It looks great. Don't get me wrong. But where's my return? What was the point in doing that? And I would much rather educate as you go and just go like, "Oh, okay, what is your bounce rate? What is happening with your website? All that kind of stuff, and just make sure they understand that that might not necessarily be the need. And sometimes it is. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes the bounce rate might be so high because they're hitting the homepage and it's just terribly designed and what have you, or they're just not really hitting the pain point, and the video could do that. Then fine, but it's got to be done for the right reasons. And I think a lot of creatives could learn from that. Definitely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a very key understanding to know, and something that I try to do. My next question was going to be like, whose role do you feel it is to make make the business know what is worth them spending the money on, firstly, but also then secondly, you know, just building off the website thing before we go into the next point. I mean, yeah, in some cases, getting a website video done is the best return on that money, right? In some cases, right? In others, it may be, let's create one piece of content that goes on YouTube that then we cut into 7 pieces of content for your social media, right? For example, right? That's a strategy. I mean, like, and to re-ask you in some ways a question: whose job is it? Do you feel it's the content creators? Do you feel it's the marketing agencies? Do you feel it's etc. to kind of help the business owner understand how they're going to get a return on investment, when they're going to get a return on investment, and then how that process looks like?
I think it's mostly the agency, whoever's the lead on the project, um, needs to just have that free reign to be able to go, right, okay, this isn't the right route for you. And that does depend on the agency who you're speaking to. Some agencies will just go, yeah, you need a website video because they may not understand the other elements, or they just don't care. They want the paycheck. And I can't blame people that in this current day and age, everybody needs money. But uh, it, it's a difficult one to say about the return on investment and when they're likely to get it. But what I would generally say to most people is like, look, if it's going to be organic, don't necessarily expect a monetary return on investment. The return on investment for you with organic content is more eyes looking at what it is that you do and potentially clicking that link through to your website. If you're putting money behind that amazing piece of content about your ring light, then that's a different kettle of fish, because then those click throughs are going to a certain place and you want them to be performing on that particular place, whether it's buying something or signing up for an email newsletter or whatever it might be. And so there's 2 very different elements to that. And it just depends on what the content is being created specifically for and to achieve, and before you can then turn around and go, right, this is what your return on investment is going to be. And some companies will be happy to go, right, okay, I understand I'm not going to make any money from this, but I also understand that I need to be doing this to have a presence on social media and people understand what it is that I do and who I am, and hopefully understand the element of giving value within the content as well, and not always necessarily selling.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I think it's a common misconception that a lot of videos, and I think it's the commercial, like TV commercial side, it's like, we're going to make a commercial and you're going to make loads of money. It's like, well, no, not necessarily, because you need to understand where your video, where whatever you're doing, where your place is in the market that you're trying to talk to, right? You need to understand who is going to buy from you, number one. Number two, when you know that, what are their needs, what are their pain points, what do they want to know? And if you can be the solution to that, if you can position yourself, whether that's me or my client or your client or whoever's client, whether they can be positioned in the perspective of they are the go-to person for X, Y, and Z, then of course they're more likely to. But as a content creator, our jobs is to help amplify the business message. That's how I put it, and that's how I see it. It's not to help you sell your product, because to be honest, if you can't sell your product, there's no point me being involved, because all I'm going to do is help you be seen by more people for a period of time, whether that's 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. The reality of the fact is, and most of what I say to clients is, if you have a budget of 10 grand, cut that into 10 videos at $1,000 each instead of blowing it all on one, because it will probably get you more return on investment. Like this is like a catch-all term of like, everyone wants a return on investment. Of course they do, but there is actually no simple answer to the return on investment side of it, because I can't guarantee, Simon can't guarantee, no one who creates video can guarantee 100% you're going to get a return on investment. No one can. And if they say they can, they're bullshitting, because no one can. All we can say is we're going to do our best to make sure to amplify your message and make sure you're talking to the right people conveniently, quite a lot of the time, or depending on what the project is. Like, for example, Tommy is a key example of this, right? Like, I help him articulate once a week why you should hire Tide 55. By no means does that mean I'm going to get him new clients every two weeks. No, that means I'm going to help him articulate that message. It might result in us getting new clients, or Tide getting new clients. Great, fab. If that's what happens, that's what happens. But in reality, that's not why it's valuable. That's not why he's investing in it. From what my understanding of it is, of course, right? And probably after this episode is actually going to be a conversation with Tommy about that specific thing, ironically enough. But yeah, I think for me it's interesting to sort of see that there is a lot of similarities in regards to the way we think, and I think that's also why we were able to work together like that first time quite well, and also like why you and Tommy have been able to work with longer term as well. Have you seen, and I don't want this to make this whole podcast about Tommy and Tide, but I think it's important to sort of, it'd be interesting for me to hear kind of, have you seen kind of a change in what he's looking to do? Obviously, he's completely changed in regards to career, but like in regards to how he's gone about doing content, because obviously you've seen his progression through content longer than I have, specifically from like an actual internal perspective. So I think it's interesting for me to hear that, but also for my viewers as well, because they know of Tommy and they see him.
Yeah, for Tommy, content has always been important, always. It's why when I very first filmed with Tommy, he was already working with Jordan, who is no longer with the team, but he's moved on to other stuff. But he was working with Jordan, creating content, and so for Tommy, even though he was in a completely different workspace and a different space entirely, content was always important to him, and that creative aspect of content, not necessarily him creating it, because again, he's very mindful in understanding that yes, I could probably do it. It would take me a hell of a lot longer, and also I want to be able to concentrate on the things that I am good at. So then he hires people in like yourself, to be able to help him create the content that he envisages. Is that a word?
Envisions. Yeah.
Envisions. That's the one. Even though now it's a completely different business, content has always been key for Tommy anyway. And I think, now he seems to be in a little bit more of a happy place, for want of a better way of putting it, at the moment, with Jordan North and his happy place, Turfmore, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, he seems to be in a happier place, working on the projects and the content that he does.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And I think for me, it's already like, it's been interesting to see how the content has evolved for me since I started working with him. It was only 3 or 4 months ago, but there has already been kind of an evolution within Tide already, from what we've been doing, what we've been talking about, how we've been doing it, to now what we're talking about. And then I imagine will be true in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months time, whether that's with me and in that respect, because nothing is certain, 100% certain, right? Like, so that's why I phrase it like that. It's not like, oh, there's this thing coming, oh, Cole's not going to be working with Tiny. No, not as far as I'm aware, at least. But he did
ask me to speak to you. So,
well, all right. But no, for me, I think it's one of those things to understand that no matter how long you work with someone or a client, or in general, whether that's a long term arrangement, whether that's like, could go to employment or not, is what things are you going to do? I will always be, and he said this himself, I'll always be the person who helped create content at the start of Tide, right? And that will always be important for me and my legacy, building off back to what we discussed at the very start about legacy. What would you say to people who don't necessarily understand legacy, don't necessarily like get what their legacy could be, or etc. From your side, would you say is, how would you describe that? Like, what is your legacy, or what is legacy in a concept?
legacy is what you leave behind. It's what you and not necessarily what you leave behind, but what you want to leave behind. What you want maybe people to know you for, or just generally that point that when you curl off this mortal coil, that people go, yeah, he was a nice guy and he did X, Y, and Z, or he did this, or oh yeah, he's the guy who climbed Mount Everest and raised loads of money for charity, or whatever it might be. For me, I want my legacy to be the case of, well, he really helped me understand social media. He really helped me with my business. Actually, I read his book and it meant that I was able to start creating content for myself, push myself harder, and then get to a point where I could hire people to do stuff for me because I was making more money or whatever. I just want to be that guy who's helped a little bit, just turn that corner of I can't create content to actually, you know what, I can write a blog and then I can look at what else I can do with it. Or you know what, I can do a podcast. I don't want to be on camera, but I can do a podcast. I can speak into my phone and do a podcast. And then what can I do with it? Well, again, the list is endless. You can turn it into video. You can get it transcribed. You can do all sorts of stuff. So that's what my legacy, I'm hoping, will be. Is that guy that people were able to turn to and go, I need a bit of help. Please help. And yeah, okay, I've still got bills to pay, and consultation is one thing, but help is a completely different other kettle of fish, and I'm always happy to help.
Yeah, so I think that something that COVID has shown a lot of people is there is a lot of, in whatever community you're in, so whether that's photography community, videography community, Salisbury community, in my case, etc. There is a lot of goodwill that will be in those communities, right? Like when a business is legitimately in trouble, if it's able to share or articulate, whether that's to a neighbor, to a friend, etc., or slightly more publicly, that they are in a vulnerable position, then the community will hopefully rile up behind them to help them not be in a vulnerable position and be in a strong position and say, look, this is what we can do and this is what is possible. And it's not always about making money. And it's very nice to me to hear that others still follow that same motto about it's not always about making money, right? Because we sort of said it and we sort of talked about it in this podcast as well. But I think it's very important to understand that whenever you do anything, whether you're a content creator, a marketer, a web designer, you work in a cafe, etc., the actions even little things like smiling at that person who comes in looking upset or asking how they are or etc., whatever it is, right? Those little things can mean a huge amount to that one person, right? Because everyone has those crap days, but you don't know whether they've just, their mum's just died or whatever it is. You don't know what it is. But being kind and being compassionate to random strangers will, from what I've seen, benefit you, firstly. Like, from a legitimate perspective, it will actually benefit you as a character in regards to like your own business, your own perspective, your thing, because but it's not that's not why you should do it. Yes, it will, but that's not why you should do it, right?
I mean, one of the things I said recently on social, because I try to tie my content into what's happening on the day-to-day basis and stuff. And actually, the next day was kindness day, which meant it really instilled what I was saying. But I was on about happy hour day, and I was like, okay, it's a full day of happy hour. We can all go off and drink 2 drinks every hour or whatever if we want to, or you can just go out and make somebody else happy. So rather than doing that sales message, look through your list of people on your social media who follow your business and just reach out and just go, hey, I know things are difficult at the moment. How are you getting on? No other ulterior motive. They may not come back to you, or they might come back to you and start a full-blown conversation, but just don't then use it to go, oh, well, I was wondering if you'd like to buy blah, 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 blah. No, no, it's about being human and about just actually having a level of empathy and understanding that actually that would be quite nice. I think we'd all like that element, like you say, smiling at somebody in the cafe or asking how they are. You don't get that very often. A lot of the time people are in too much of a hurry. So yeah, I mean, I tend to smile at people on the street and get some very funny looks, but whatever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's one of those things where, like, yes, it may actually lead on to sales, but as I was saying briefly already, like, that's not the end goal. The end goal is to make the world a better place, right? Like, that's personally why I am in business. That's personally why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I kind of in some ways go out of my way to help smaller businesses. And, you know, something which I've seen it multiple times now. A lot of businesses have been affected by COVID differently, right? Like, it was very easy for me to pivot. To be honest, it was, to be honest. I'm a content creator. I just go from creating video content to creating audio content. There you go. Job done. That's how I pivot. If you run a retail store, you can't exactly pivot, really, right? It's a lot harder, right? Now, yes, that doesn't mean that if you're running a retail shop and you're listening to this, for example, you should sit there and, oh, the world's over, I run a retail shop. No, it's not. There's things you could be doing. There's always things you could be doing. There's always things, whether that's building a brand, whether that's, you know, working on your website, working on content, etc. There's 1,000 things, and me and Simon could both sit here, me and Simon could both sit here and talk for hours about what you could be doing, what should you create content about, and why it's beneficial. But that's not the point, right? The point, I think, here anyway, is yes, everyone's gone through this together. Yes, everyone's gone through it, but people have been affected very differently by it. And I think it's important to understand that, yes, it's like, you know, for example, for me and Simon, we've only benefited from this, to be honest. Like, from just a financial perspective, we're only going to benefit from more people wanting to use social media, right? That's going to be a net positive for us. But there is also businesses that basically their entire way of making money has basically ceased in a matter of weeks. So what are we going to do if we're in a position of, good authority or whatever, or whether it's, we're making good money and we have a business, generally have a business and it's growing? What are we going to do to help those businesses that physically can't? What skills can we know that work that help them right now? Because, at the end of the day, if you help people now, and this is not, again, the motive, but it's just the output, if you keep a business alive now, they're more likely to come to you into a year to 2 to 3 to 4, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's why I've been doing my lives. I was live 7 days a week for 10 weeks, and now I'm live 3 days a week. And it's not why I do it. I'm doing it to answer people's questions or to help or just pass on some information. And that's why I do what I do. But it has resulted in people coming to me and going, you know what, maybe we should chat a little bit more about X, Y, or Z and stuff like that. So it has generated business, but that wasn't the reason why I did it. I just wanted to start helping people get to the other side, because it was blatantly obvious, as much as the media was trying to paint a picture otherwise, that we were going to be in this for the long haul. And that, a bit of help would go a long way to make sure that your business is still there when we get to the other side of whenever this is going to be.
Yeah, and also, for me, from clients who helped me when I was just starting out, it's important for me to return that favor now, right? Because legitimately, I wouldn't be here if people hadn't helped me that had no business in helping me whatsoever, right? They had absolutely no reason. They hired me on a job. I had no portfolio, no experience, didn't know what I was doing, and they were putting their reputation on the line to be like, okay, let's give this kid a chance, because for whatever reason, right? So I'm now in a position where it's semi-role reversal, where they're in a position that's difficult and there is risk there. So what can I do as a content creator? What can Simon do as a content creator to help those businesses? And there's no simple answer there, right? Some will be, look, I got you. This is some strategies that you could use, or, on the other side, here's how you can utilize your phone to create content, to talk about what you do, what you're still doing in lockdown, etc. And building off that, the sooner I think you start on creating the idea of creating content, the sooner you'll start gaining the benefits of creating content and talking about what you do. And that's why I think it's important, and people should be using, if they see this massive lockdown as a massive amount of time they just need to sit through, we're gonna watch the entirety of Netflix this lockdown. Okay, yes, you can do that, yes, but what are you actually going to have learnt? What are you going to have benefited, and what are you going to have benefited from doing that during this lockdown? Or could you start the idea of creating content on your phone, get comfortable with the idea of creating content on your phone, so then by the time you're out of lockdown and you can open your shop again, you are then confident enough to be able to go, guys, look, the shop's open, this is what I'm doing today, yada, 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 yada. And then eventually, if you do that long enough, people will then notice, and people will be like, okay, cool, you do this. Oh, wow, it's convenient enough, I actually need that. Right?
Yeah, definitely. I can't add anything to that.
So no, I think there's definitely a lot that businesses can do, and I hope that part of this podcast, or at least some of this podcast, has helped people understand that, right? Like, and see that. But yeah, I mean, I'm very privy of time, so is there any final thoughts or anything that you want to mention before we kind of sign off, Simon?
I mean, not really. Just again, just going back to understanding the power of your phone, and just look out for the apps that you can download. And some of them, yes, they might cost a few quid, but actually they're really powerful tools for you, that are great to use. And look to people who are creating content and see what they're doing and going, okay, they've got subtitles on their videos. How are they doing that? And ask the question, how do you do subtitles on your videos? Or use a tool. I want you to grab a pen and paper right now. It's an amazing tool. Literally right into this website. It's called Google, and Google. And you type into that, how do I do subtitles on a video? And up will pop 1,000,001 results telling you how to do subtitles on a video, or whatever it is else that you want to do. How do I light a video? How do I film steadily with a mobile phone? All these kind of things that you might want an answer to. Where can I buy a tripod from? Because yes, there's going to be an element of people watching this right now going, even if your videos are only £100, and they're not, but even if only creating a video cost 100 quid, I can't afford it. And so you go, right, well, that's fine. Get cracking and make some of your own stuff. It's affordable to do. You could buy a white box for small products, and then that white box will cost about 8 quid off Amazon. And then you can light your products nicely rather than taking it as a photo on your bed with your gold lame, whatever it is, bedspread, and home sweet home cushions in the background. You could spend a few extra quid and get some lighting or what have you. You don't have to spend a fortune to make some nice looking content, build your brand, and then start going, okay, well, I can afford more than £100 for a video now. What do you charge? And find out. So
Yeah, and also it's not instantly, because most people's, and I think we'll end it on this, but I think most people's brain jump to, oh, this is going to cost me thousands. Yes, production can get to thousands, and it can get to thousands quickly, but that doesn't mean every video you've ever seen costs over £1,000, right? By no means, right? Doesn't cost £10 either, but there is a middle ground that we can come to as videographers to say, look, okay, this is your budget, right? This is what we can do with that budget, or not, right? And then it's up to you to decide whether that's something you want to do. But for those of my audience who's interested in possibly seeing your live streams, seeing some of your content, interacting with you specifically, how's the best place to do that? Where's the best place to do that?
I mean, if you're a business, probably the best place to find me is LinkedIn. But I have content everywhere. I am omnipotent. So I do have a podcast. I go live 3 times a week on several channels. So when I go live, I am live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Periscope. God, how many places? Instagram. There's loads of places live. I'm pretty much everywhere, so you can generally find me, and I'll chuck you a bunch of links so that you can use those maybe in the description if you feel like you want to. But yeah, LinkedIn's probably the best place to find me, or if you just want to listen to stuff, I do have a podcast as well, which is the Social Media Podcast, and that's on iTunes and Spotify and all those wonderful places.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Simon, for coming on and taking this time to discuss, the things we discussed. And, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope there was, and there definitely is value here. I think there's a lot of insight, and I think it's important to be open to discussion with, just as a final ending note, to come full circle. It is very, very valuable to have conversations with people who do what you do, right? And to be okay with that.
Absolutely. You're always going to learn.
Cool. Fab.
There we go.
Job done. Thank you so much for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you did enjoy this video and were able to take some value from mine and Simon's conversation. I personally found it very, very informative, very, very valuable to have. And I think it's important to understand that not everyone who does the same thing as you or offers a similar service can necessarily be your competitor. So if you're going to take anything from this podcast, that it would be what I would recommend you do take from it. So thank you so much for coming back. I'm sure this week we'll have a bunch new exciting bits of content going live on the channel. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. And I'd love to hear what you thought or the best takeaway you had in the comment section down below. And yeah, I'll see you very, very soon.